Calibrachoa, also known as million bells. For this video, I'm using pelleted Calibrachoa seeds. I sow Calibrachoa seeds by broadcasting them evenly across the soil surface. I keep soil moist until seeds germinate. In this video, I use 9 Calibrachoa pelleted seeds. Pelleted seeds are simply normal plant seeds that have been coated for easier handling tiny seeds. For me, optimal germination for temperature Calibrachoa about 24 degrees Celsius. You also could start Calibrachoa indoors and transplant later. For me, Calibrachoa seed usually germinate between day 8 to day 16. Calibrachoa seeds start to germinate. This is what Calibrachoa cotyledon look like. In cooler climate, usually you can start at 8 to 12 weeks before last frost date. This last frost date and temperature varies greatly depending on your state, county, elevation, and even whether you live in an urban or rural environment. For starting seed indoor, as soon as seedlings emerge, please provide light to seedlings. You can put them on a sunny windowsill or grow seedlings beneath LED grow lights. Distance grow light from plant depend on LED wattage of your lights, the amount of ambient light, and the type of plant you are growing. A general rule is that LED lights should be about 12 to 30 inches from the top of your plant. As your plants grow, you have to change the height of your lights to accommodate the growing plant's height. For growing seedling using grow lights, do not leave lights on for 24 hours. Please give Calibrachoa seedling 8 to 10 hours of dark period. Using incandescent bulbs will not work for this process because they will get too hot and they will burn your plants. Before planting in the garden, seedling plants need to be hardened off. This hardening off process toughens the plant's cell structure and reduces transplant shock and scalding. If you don't harden your plants, the young plants will get burned by the sun, the shock of cold, or the wind. If frost threatens at night, cover or bring containers indoors, then take them out again in the morning. You also need to protect young Calibrachoa plants from wind, rain, and hot sun. Calibrachoa true leaf start to emerge. For most plants, begin hardening off a week before the final frost date for your area. After your plant have been hardening off, you can transplant them to new container or sowing directly in the garden. For planted to new container, choose your desirable pot. That is 1 to 2 inch larger than the current size, if the plant is currently in a 10-inch pot or smaller. If your current pot size is greater than 10 inch, choose a pot that is 2 to 3 inch larger in diameter. For me, best time to transplant Calibrachoa to new container are in early morning or late afternoon. For me, optimal temperature range for growing Calibrachoa 24 to 30 degrees Celsius, 75.2 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Hardiness zones for Calibrachoa, Zone 9 to 11, USDA. In the States, Calibrachoa grown as an annual in all zones. My minimum temperature when growing Calibrachoa is 24 degrees Celsius. My maximum temperature when growing Calibrachoa is 32 degrees Celsius. My average humidity when growing Calibrachoa are about 84%. I grow my Calibrachoa in tropical climate. Calibrachoa lifespan in my climate is a short-lived perennial. Calibrachoa prefer to grow in subtropical or temperate climate. Calibrachoa originally comes from the some part of South America from southern Brazil to Peru and Chile. When you propagate Calibrachoa by seeds, it is common to have some seeds fail to germinate. Calibrachoa success germination rate depend on seed's quality, seed age, moisture, light, and temperature. For me, on average, Calibrachoa seed viability are about 1 year. For me, on average, pelleted Calibrachoa seed viability are about 2 years. Calibrachoa seed viability is greatly affected by its quality at the time of collection, its treatment between collection, storage, and the conditions in which it is stored. Soil I use for growing Calibrachoa contain cocoa peat, red burn soil, micro, fine sand, old humus, and charcoal. You can use whatever growing media available to your convenience. As long as you use well-drained soil to grow Calibrachoa, you will be fine. Also, if you can, please make sure that your growing media are sterilized and clean. By choosing sterilized and clean growing media will minimize new seedlings from becoming infected from disease-causing pathogens. Calibrachoa prefer to grow in slightly acidic soil pH, between 5.5 and 6.5 pH. My soil pH, when I try to grow Calibrachoa, are about 7 pH. Soil pH is a measure of the acidity or alkalinity in soils. In the pH scale, pH 7.0 is neutral. Soil pH affects nutrients availability for plant growth. In highly acidic soil, aluminum and manganese can become more available and more toxic to plant, while calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium are less available to the plant. For example, Soil less than 4.6 pH are too acid for most plants to grow. In highly alkaline soil, phosphorus and most micronutrients become less available. Without an adequate supply of phosphorus, plant growth is diminished, maturity delayed, and yield reduced. At 7.5 pH, iron availability becomes a problem on alkaline soil. In plants' nutrition, iron is required for photosynthesis and chlorophyll synthesis. At 8.3 pH and above are too alkaline for most plants to grow. Most plants thrive in the 6.0 to 7.0, slightly acidic to neutral, range. It is helpful to check the soil pH as different plants thrive in different soil pH ranges. You can measure your soil pH by using pH meters. Container size I use for growing Calibrachoa, height 22 centimeters, width 29 centimeters. The bigger the container, the bigger root system will develop and will resulting bigger plant. If grow Calibrachoa in the garden, space plants around 30 centimeters, 12 inches, apart. Calibrachoa can grow up to 30 centimeters, 12 inches. Calibrachoa maximum plant spread, crown width 60 centimeters, 24 inches. When growing Calibrachoa, please make sure your container have good drainage. For me, the advantage for growing in container is gives me more control over sunlight, moisture, and temperature. Calibrachoa is a genus of plants in the Solanaceae, nightshade, family. Calibrachoa are closely related to Petunia. However, on further examination, it has been found that there are major differences in chromosomes, corresponding to external differences and fertilization factors that distinguish the two genera. There are 28 different species in the Calibrachoa genus, but those used for garden cultivation are generally hybrids derived from crossing various species. Breeders have crossed petunias with Calibrachoa to form a hybrid genus called Pechoa. Calibrachoa was named by Vicente Cervantes after Antonio de la Cal y Bracho, a 19th-century Mexican botanist. Calibrachoa flower buds emerging. Calibrachoa can be propagated by seeds and stem cutting. Propagate by stem cuttings usually take 21 to 30 days to produce roots. For this growing season, on average, my water usage are about 300 milliliters every time I water my plant. In my climate, I only water my plant when the topsoil a little bit dry. Time I water my Calibrachoa is between 7 to 8 in the morning. Your water usage may be different than me, and, depending on your conditions, you may have to water as often as twice a day. Calibrachoa flowers start to bloom. Calibrachoa usually start to bloom from spring to fall time. There are dozens of varieties of Calibrachoa available in a vast array of colors to choose from: orange, pink, coral, red, yellow, cream, purple, lavender, burgundy, blue. I start using fertilizer after 2 months of planting. After that, I fertilize my plant every 14 days. Flower size 2.3 centimeters. When growing Calibrachoa, I use liquid fertilizer. You can use whatever fertilizer available to your convenience. If you see your plant is struggling and want to use fertilizer, please do not overfeed the plant. Some signs of overfertilizer are defoliation, very slow or no growth, yellowing and wilting of lower leaf and browning leaf tips. Please read and follow the instructions carefully before starting using any fertilizers. Common pests you may encounter when growing Calibrachoa are thrips and aphids. Common problems you may encounter when growing Calibrachoa are root rot, black root rot, Thiolabiopsis, iron deficiency, and nitrogen deficiency. Bee come to pollinate Calibrachoa flower. Disease and pest-affected Calibrachoa can be prevented by good cultural practices, providing good air circulation, do not overcrowd plants, avoid watering at night, keep soil from soggy condition, and Calibrachoa likes nitrogen fertilizer. Calibrachoa flower also attract butterflies and hummingbirds. Calibrachoa flower don't require deadheading to promote blooming. However, cutting the plants back promotes bushier growth. Calibrachoa seed pods start to emerge. Stem cutting you get from pruning can be used to propagate new plant. By pruning Calibrachoa, we also can maintain an attractive plant's appearance. Calibrachoa is going to need at least 6 hours of direct sunlight to grow and bloom. Calibrachoa plants that don't get at least 6 hours of direct sunlight will get leggy and will have sparse blooms. If you growing Calibrachoa in partial shade location, your plant may not flower profusely compared to full sun growing Calibrachoa. Calibrachoa prefer to grow in full sun location. In my climate, I grow my Calibrachoa in full sun location. If your container have some weeds grow in it, you need to do some weed control. Weed control is done to limit weed infestations and minimize competition between Calibrachoa and noxious weeds. Weeds compete with Calibrachoa for water, nutrients, space, and light. My favorite method for controlling weeds is pulling out the weeds by hands. By doing this early in the growing season, it will reduce the time required for hand weeding later in the season. Weed control is also important due to some weeds also harbor insects and diseases, which may then spread to nearby plant. When you're doing weed control, your Calibrachoa thank you by producing more flowers. Calibrachoa are not classified as deer-resistant. Calibrachoa is rarely eaten by deer. Calibrachoa are not classified as rabbits-resistant. Calibrachoa is rarely eaten by rabbits. But young rabbits are curious and tend to sample many plants, even ones reputed to be rabbit-resistant. Calibrachoa isn't poisonous to dogs and cat as they don't have any toxic principles. But remember, even non-toxic plants can cause mild digestive upset if ingested in large quantities. Also, the fertilizer you'll use in planting Calibrachoa might be harmful to your pet. With that, you must be mindful of the fertilizers you put in your garden. Common name for Calibrachoa: million bells, trailing petunia, mini petunia, super bells. I did not use any herbicides or pesticides when growing my Calibrachoa plants. Calibrachoa fast and easy to grow, low to maintenance, and everyone who loves flowers should try to grow them. Thanks you for watching. Drop us a line in the comments below to share your experience growing these beauties. Subscribe for more videos.